And I
Yeah.
think one of the reasons, if I may, it's certainly from my experience, is because if you get this right, what the recipient hears creates such clarity for them that it's really quite important. Because one of the situations, for example, we come across is in exit interviews where people are complaining that the pivotal reason why they're leaving is because they didn't know what was expected of them enough. They didn't know what good looks like. They didn't
Right.
know what it is that I really needed to do. And any of those really come back at heart to their communication that, that they were receiving. And that means, strictly speaking, whatever level of leadership was above them failed them at some level, even if there was also a personality clash or an alignment of
Right.
problem with values. So I'm not saying these are the only reasons why people leave. Of course, communication isn't the only reason, but it is a very significant one and often quite pivotal, and for the reasons you've already expressed.
Yes.
So where we get it right is in the reframe and is in the clarity and is in the intention, which I
That's right.
think is behind what you're saying. So what's one of the skills that you then emphasize? So if the mindset begins with some of this, and thank you for
Right.
sharing that, what's one of the skills that you would recommend they need to do?
Well, there's more to the mindset. That's just one of that 4-step framework, but it gives you an idea of what we're talking about. I'll give you one more because it'll inform the actual skills in the conversation framework, and that is that if we can internally remember that every party to this conflict and this conversation is at choice, what we call at choice, meaning there are no victims here. Now, you can control that within yourself. But often I have people say, but the other person is coming with this idea that they are a victim. They are a victim to their coworker they're having the issue with or whatever. And so what we teach is that we can know it temporarily. We can know it for them. We can know for them they are not a victim, even though they may come into this conversation thinking they are. And when we know that for them, we address them very differently. When we know that we don't have to, there's very little we have to do. And there's very little an employee has to do. Now, they might have to do certain things to continue to work here, but they do have choices about where they work. Well, they do have choices about nobody put a gun to their head and said, you're going to put your keys in the car and you're going to drive to this job this morning. They did that. And they can make a different choice tomorrow morning. And so when we hold people up, not as victims and ourselves up, that we speak very differently. We're basically saying, I honor and respect, you have a choice. My job is to do, Sue, just what you said. My job as a manager or leader is to create clarity for you about the choice you have here. And to know that we're inviting you into this choice. We want you here. We want you to be successful. We want you to be a part of our team, and it must look like this. And we're here to support that and train that and encourage that. And we respect that you have to make the final decision. So you're basically saying, we've made ours. This is how it will look if you continue to work here. The choice that is left is actually yours, not ours. And so it's a very freeing way to come from that mindset. And you can see how it informs the languaging when you step into the framework. And to answer your original question, which is in the actual conversation, what are some things we can do? One of the steps, the first step is we use an acronym called ARCH, A-R-C-H. And the A, that first step, stands for two things. One is affirm or acknowledge this person within the context of what we're talking about. I'll give you an example. And the second part that A stands for is to find some place within the context of this topic that you agree, so that you can launch into the conversation and into the conflict from a place of agreement, not from disagreement. So I'll give you an example. This weekend, we visited my husband's daughter, youngest daughter, and her husband works with a brother-in-law, and they have they have some personal communications issues. The brother-in-law's been in the job a lot longer and sort of has been for years barking and yelling at this, you know, younger brother-in-law. And so he asked, he said, I know you do this for a living. Would you help me? I'm going to have to confront him. I said, well, okay, you're on the clock now. I'll send my bill later. But I said, of course. And so basically, he said, I think he's just a narcissist. You know, I don't think, I mean, I'm pretty sure this is going to cause a big rift in our family, but I've got to do it. And I said, well, the first thing I'd have you do is stop telling yourself that story until it actually happens, because you may very well, I've seen people over and over be very surprised when they use this framework, how people respond. And I said to him, I don't want you to skip this step. I want you to find something. I said, if you had to tell me one thing that is really you appreciate about him, what would it be? And he struggled to find it, but he did. He said, he's worked at this job a long time. He does know a lot about this job. I said, okay, that's all you need. And I said, and now where would you both agree around this topic? He said, he thought a long time about that. And he said, well, I guess we would both agree that our children are cousins, right? And that if we were to not be able to resolve this, the divide between our family would not only hurt us, but it would hurt some other people we both love. I said, there you go. So I want you to start with that, because when even if you have diagnosed this person properly, which is unlikely, but even if you have, they will respond better typically to this platform to jump into the conflict from when we all both acknowledge we agree about that outcome, and we both and most people appreciate being acknowledged.
Oh, I think